Go ahead. I wasn't recording yet. Go ahead, save it.
That's my cooking show intro. Did you know that? Have you ever watched one of my? You got it. I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna tag you on it now.
Tag me.
It's like
Cooking with Leah.
the Leah Cooking Show. Yeah.
I feel like I've heard it before. It sounds familiar.
See?
Are you being serious?
No, I have no. I do my little cookie show. I do like a 1 minute cookie show, and that's how I started.
Okay.
We live on everything.
Yeah.
What's the name of your podcast?
In the Sheets with Leah.
Between the sheets. Between the
I don't even know what the name is.
That's an awesome intro.
Yeah.
Between the sheets.
Between the Sheets with Leah. Yeah.
All right. Is it in between or between the sheets?
Between the sheets.
Because you said in the sheets first
in the
time,
sheets,
then
in
you
between the
combine
sheets,
them.
between the sheets.
Between the sheets.
Between. I was trying to get. I asked him.
Like
I said,
it's
"Is
a
this
sexy name?"
It's sexy, so it kind of plays back into the Boudoir suite, but also it's intimate. It's those intimate. How many people you let in between the sheets with you?
Wow.
It better not to be too many.
Right.
Well, it talks about the unspoken things that we all think about all the time.
Just
And,
very intimate things. Yeah.
I like that idea because it does draw from not only the boudoir, but the intimacy of a podcast and the conversations that these can bring.
Yes.
They are intimate conversations.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about what just people talk about on the daily. I want to get real. I want to get to the
Just watch the weather. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're trying to talk about the weather.
Yeah. That's crazy. So just to kind of open it up, if it's fair.
Yep.
Like I kind of want to dive into how these things manifested that we're in the building, like of your boudoir suite, how manifestation has worked in your life, and kind of like the background of like the photography side, because I think that's obviously it's your business, but it's something that I'm interested in, like the beginning phases.
And just to segue real quick, we're just for everybody listening, we're talking about today is our topic, manifestation, and how it plays out in our lives.
Yeah, and real quick, I think that's actually good that you interrupted. Like, let's introduce ourselves. Like, who
are you?
Like, we just turned on the
to?
podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Between the Sheets
with
podcast.
Leah, with Leah, Chris, and today we got Dana here.
Hey, I'm a special guest.
The podcast OG teaching us what to do.
Yeah, right?
This is good.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself. It's fair. Let's go around the table. You start, Leah.
Ladies first.
Of course.
My name is Leah, and I am the owner of Leah Flores Photography, and call myself an author, call myself a powerful manifester.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
Are you writing a book or anything?
I am.
Me too.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
That's good. Go ahead, Chris.
My name is Chris Brooks. All around creative individual who loves to be a bullshitter.
Love it.
So.
He's honest.
Hey, I love him for that. It's
Yep.
his honesty. That's actually one of the things that I always tell him is he's so honest and we can be transparent with each other.
Yes.
And I value that.
Can't find that in too many people.
No, and he checks me a lot. So like that puts me in balance because I can go off straight. So I'm Dana Keith, father, filmmaker, creator, owner of Dana Keith Film, videographer, podcaster. I do like to say I'm an author and speaker as well because I do believe that's going to come true. I'm writing my ebook and I'm working on a big book as well. Big book's not going to come out for a while. It just tells too much of my life. I want to be somewhere before I release that.
Yeah.
I don't want my story to be the reason why I'm successful. So I have an ebook coming out, which is more about like the business side of me, the entrepreneur side, like some of the things that I've been through, kind of tell that story and just kind of open up. So I am working on a book. So
Love it.
But yeah, speaker, podcast, that type of stuff. But videographer, owner, business creator.
I'm also a photographer, and I do video.
Yeah, I'm not a
And
photographer.
I'm really into tech.
No, it's funny because like when we start talking about like our titles, like I think that is a conversation. Like,
That's a whole nother conversation in itself, boy. Just what we call ourselves.
right.
Yeah.
And and then the idea of being a professional, like those are always like funny to me. Like when people see all my equipment, they see all the things I do. And granted, I treat it like a professional, trait or skill. But sometimes I don't think I'm a professional. Like sometimes I'm like,
if they knew
I'm on the journey, just trying to figure this shit out.
The many stories that me and you have just of that is, coming in, just not knowing shit, not thinking,
Right.
not anything, and everybody sees these two guys with all this equipment.
Right,
Like,
have it all figured out.
These guys got it going on. These guys
Hey,
know
well,
what's up.
sometimes that's all that matters is that the
Perception.
people that you're dealing with, they're like, oh, okay, they got it
Exactly.
together, and inside you're like, oh shit.
No, it's real.
It's real. But then after time and time, then it just, that is what it is. And
Right, you do become that.
Those shoes are what you wear.
You manifest it.
Exactly.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So kind of going back to our original question, let's kind of start, and this is probably really valuable for your listeners, for your podcast, Between the Sheets with Leah. Give us an idea of how you started photography, like the early beginning stages, what you got you into it, and kind of talk about manifesting this dream that you're now into, being your home, you know, the office and boudoir suite, all within, you know, the confines of your home.
Okay. You know, when I think way back, if I take you way back, the very first, I don't want to say the first, but the realization of when I started to manifest things was when I said I wanted to become a photographer early on. Didn't think about it 10, 15, 20 years later, you know, started picking up the camera and playing around with it and whatnot. I told Chris earlier that I was watching SpongeBob with my kids. This sounds funny. I was watching the show SpongeBob. You know, they're little. You sit down, you watch things that they're watching. There was actually an episode where he says imagination, and he does this whole thing above his head, and the words come up. And I remember it sticking with me, and I was like, wow, you know, there's so much power in imagination. And I used to play pretend a lot when I was a kid. I could think of extravagant scenes and sets, and I would draw people into them and let's play this and let's do that and pretend this happens. And I believe that, and just reading it today was confirmation. I was reading a book by Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention, and he talks about how imagination is the biggest part of manifestation that you can have. And so knowing that I was a big, you know, I love to play imagination, I played pretend, is when I began my manifestation journey without even knowing it.
Right.
You know, I didn't realize that until you get grown.
Right.
So I started doing photography, and I manifestation, I'll be honest with you, was almost like an evil thing to me. I grew up Catholic. I grew up with rules and regulations. Yes. Yeah. Well, not even spiritual, see, because I believe that I'm spiritual now. I believe I was religion-based then. And
Other topic for...
It's a whole other topic, yes.
But talk about the difference between that, because there's a thin line.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just believe that growing up in the Catholic, and I'm not putting anybody that's Catholic down.
We're just
grew
having
up
a
Catholic,
discussion.
yep. And the rules and regulations, stand up, sit down, pray this prayer, it was just very, there were all kinds of things you had to do. And I grew up thinking God was mad at me, you know, for every little thing, God was mad at me. And I had to retrain my brain when I actually get into spiritual, you know, the spiritual side of things. I had to retrain my mind and the way that I thought that God wasn't mad at me, that I'm totally part of the creation. Yes, that He loves me and more so than I can even fathom. So that's powerful in itself. So but in the Catholic, religion, you learn rules and regulations, and you can't do this and you can't do that, and they're very rigid, very rigid. And I thought of manifestation as being witchcraft and being, well, you're not in control and you don't have any power over your own life, and you can't speak things into existence, which now that I know is all false.
Right.
And there ain't no going back either once you know that.
Oh, no, there's not. Once you receive an enlightenment or you receive that, there is no going back, because you just know that you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's
you
just
know.
Deep. It's just embedded into your core. And that's a cool feeling, to have that feeling, to know that first time you're like, whoa, shit.
I had it
This
all
is for
wrong.
real.
I had it all wrong. I mean, and to be able to say that, I had it all wrong.
Right.
So as far as the progression of photography continued on, I knew that I wanted to do something bigger. I knew I wanted to do something better. And so I started to draw. And not that I'm a big drawer, but I just started to draw out. I learned about a vision board very early on, that you should write down what it is that you're thinking, or clip out pictures, or, whatever your best way to manifest. I just heard Oprah Winfrey just recently say that she doesn't even do that anymore because she's such a powerful manifester that she doesn't even have vision boards anymore. She says, I don't even need them. It's within her. Yeah, it's within her.
Because the vision board is just a reminder.
Yes.
But keep going.
Yes. And yes. So I started to draw out as I got busier and busier. And the whole reason why is I found a love for boudoir. I found a love for one-on-one with women. One-on-one in general, because I love high school seniors. I still love headshots, corporate headshots, but I love the one-on-one relationship as opposed to the weddings and the multitude of people. I connect better with people one-on-one.
Yeah.
So I began to know that I wanted to do just one-on-one things, and I was inviting women into my home. So my studio started out in the basement of my house. And I had a backdrop. It was probably a black sheet, black sheet with wrinkles in it. And
so good.
On camera flash.
Yep. On camera flash. And just using my own furniture, kicking everybody out of my house. My kids, the dogs couldn't be out. Everything had to smell good. I was trying to give an appearance of professionalism, but it was difficult.
Yeah.
But I was doing the best that I could with what I had. That's for sure. And it was working because women started to trust me and they started to
tell their friends.
They started to tell their friends. They started to refer me. And I was like, okay, something's working here.
Right.
And so going forward, I knew that the space wasn't going to work for too long, though. I wanted to upscale the level of profession, the professionalism behind it. And so I started to draw out what I wanted and just ideas first and foremost. It was just ideas.
Yeah, but you're putting it on paper.
Yes, but I was writing it down.
Yes,
I was writing it down.
Which is a important key. It's important for people to know that.
Especially going back to the whole Oprah thing. When you begin, you have to. It's almost like you need to.
You got to go through those stages.
Yes, There is something called Satori. I think that's the way that you pronounce it. And that's just an enlightenment that you receive all of a sudden like that, like the lights go off. Yeah. And I believe that manifestation plays a lot into that. And so some people receive that like overnight. So I would say, just to kind of clarify, I don't believe that. I believe that some people have a very, very, very strong gift of manifestation, enlightenment, and just kind of all in one. The majority don't.
Right.
So get that pen and paper.
Yes. Yeah. So get that pen and paper out. I started to write down things. I started to draw things out, and it started to unfold.
Yeah.
I didn't really worry about the how at that point.
Yes, that is key.
Yeah.
Focusing on the what.
Yes. The end result. And so back to imagination, and what Wayne Dyer says is the reason why imagination is so powerful in manifestation is because you're looking at the end result.
Yes.
So when you imagine something, you're imagining it in full
form.
He says that if you stay if you stay within it and keep talking about the things that you want, well, then you stay in the I want.
Right.
You don't actually ever receive because you're not looking at the end. You're just, I want this, I want this, I want that. The whole ego. That's another topic, which I would love to talk about at some point, is the ego, and the flesh is another word for it biblically. And understanding those two.
I got lots of experience.
How they go together.
Yes, definitely how they come together. So, started to draw things out, and the how started to happen. I can't even specifically tell you the people that started to come into my life, or the instances, or the things that started. I can't tell you the how. I just know that it works.
Right. So there's this thing that you kind of touched on is you don't focus on the how, you focus on the what and the why. So tell me your why. I put you on a spot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. You did. And I guess there's so many different whys. There was a different why when I started photography. There's a different why now.
I like that.
And
I like that answer because there's progression in you
100%.
that would change the why it would evolve.
Yes. And
if it doesn't, I mean, then you're not doing something right.
Yes.
You know
yes.
What I mean? Stuck.
Yeah. No. 100%.
Boom, be done.
One of my favorite quotes says, "Never be the expert, always be the beginner." And I think if you can come from that perspective in anything that you do, that you can always receive and always learn, then you can always conquer and continue to, just be.
I like that.
You can continue to learn, and that you can't teach people that. You can't, the unteachable. I'd say that those are the hardest personalities to to teach are the ones that know everything.
Yeah, because they just think that nobody can provide me any value with anything because I already know everything, and why do I even need to listen?
So there was something that you said to me, or in the conversation when you were describing like the process of manifesting where we're at now, just to give people perspective, like we're in her dream suite. Now you said something that struck me in my heart was you felt like God was always mad at you. Explain how you grew from that point to then see the other side.
I think that's a continuous process as well. There's things that I believe can be etched.
And what helps? What are you doing that helps in that process?
I'm around other individuals who inspire me, who can build me up, who can speak to me, encourage me. I read lots of books. I continuously remind myself with either music or inspirational music, or I get on YouTube every morning. I shouldn't say every morning, that would be a lie, but the majority of mornings I'll throw something on, whether it just is inspirational quotes, and I believe that those things talk to you. So it goes back to manifestation, right? Yes. When you ask for something, you should receive it. Steve Harvey said it, but Jesus said it first.
Right.
Was that you don't have because you don't ask. Well, that's true. That's biblical. He says you do not have because you do not ask.
Right.
So we need to be very intentional about
intentional. I love that word.
Yes, what we ask for and what we're
asking. Intentional about asking first.
Yes,
and then what we're asking is
and
important
then you
detail.
go to the deeper scale of that is get specific, because you can ask for things and it may not come to you the way that you thought it was going to come to you, and then you're but in the end you're like, wait, but I asked for that. Not that way, but yeah, you received something. Did. Yes.
Sure
and
did.
I've gone through that,
Thanks.
I question many things that I've asked for and the way that they've come, but
hey, that's an example too of just the whole thing working, and just having that further realization that okay, I'm doing something right.
I realize now, so with the whole God thing, when you say that for me is still a continuous process. You have a learned environment, right? That you grow up at things that you just learned, that were they just are instilled into you at some point, and those are maybe you call it a paradigm and
paradigm shift.
Those things you have to shift from.
Bob
you
Proctor.
have to relearn. Exactly, you have to relearn so many things that you took in.
To deprogram.
And yet sometimes those things still will come back up and they'll surface for you at any point of your life. And so I still have moments of, oh gosh, God he's upset with me right now. Am I doing this right? And I have to,
wow, that's powerful.
Yes. I have to check myself. I have to remind myself that he's not mad, that the majority of the time when we don't feel either the presence of God in our life, that he's still in the background, but he's just waiting for the 100%. Invitation to come and sit back down.
Right.
So manifestation in that piece biblically, that's a whole nother topic again for me, because this portion is important to really, I believe, to explain just kind of where I'm coming from, how it began, how it started, because I've gone into a deeper level of understanding biblically where Jesus was speaking to us about manifestation and to his disciples and to the people saying, you guys can do this too.
Yeah.
But most people that read the word, there's not a full understanding of it. There's just, there's such a deep level of understanding in the word with manifestation. And so I know Christians right now that still think manifestation or speaking things out is evil.
Is witchcraft.
Yeah, is evil. And God said the same spirit that raised Jesus Christ from the dead dwells within you.
Right.
So you have that power.
100%.
That he left you. He says, I left you somebody. I left you somebody in your life to be able to do this. That's that spirit. So you talk about spirit-based. Like that. So it goes deep. It goes deep for me.
This is a great podcast. Keep going. Keep going. You're killing it.
It goes deep for me. I mean, manifestation does. So I taking it back. Let me just kind of roll back here a little bit. Drawing things out was big for me. And again, I did not realize it yet. I didn't have a big knowledge of manifestation at that point.
Right. Yeah. You're not clearly intentional yet.
Correct. I just knew I was doing something, and then for some reason or another, things just started to work.
Yeah.
The doors started to open.
Those patterns you started recognizing.
Yes, people started to come into my life, so I just, that I started to realize. So fast forward to 2015, I built a studio in the back of my then home.
Right.
And I used
that studio.
2015.
2015.
2016, I hope that's right. I want to say 2016 it was done.
Ballpark.
So we started it. Yeah, ballpark. Yeah. And
5 years ago, just put it in perspective.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yes. So started doing shoots in there, and it just continued to pick up. Business continued to pick up. Then there was a different level, I think a different scale of what I was doing that picked up there. I used the studio as long as I possibly could, in the sense that it started getting bigger and bigger, and I wanted to again raise that level of just. I wanted to raise
off of what you could offer, the value,
the whole
that you
thing,
can offer,
the vibe, everything.
just the experience.
Yes. So then, you know, they're coming to my backyard. They're opening up a gate. You imagine women getting ready for a boudoir session in general. The anticipation, you guys have learned a little bit about that, just kind of being behind the scenes of what I do.
Yeah, totally.
But the anticipation, the anxiety, the nerves, right,
Yeah.
of just coming.
Totally.
So imagine this. Some women don't even show up to see me in a consult. They don't even meet me. They just look me up online, website, come to the door. Well, then they pull up and they're pulling up to a house.
Right.
And then not only that, I tell them to go to my backyard.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I've never put this all together in that fashion.
Yes.
Because I saw that all as positive.
Okay.
Like that whole experience,
Yeah.
like your backyard, come on through, like the whole walking, like Leah's boudoir. Like I thought that was like super cool. I didn't think about it from a woman's, I'm a man, so I didn't think about it from a woman's perspective. Going to somewhere that she doesn't know. I thought it was like super dope. Like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
That's because
I didn't even see any
it's
of
because
this,
you don't have evil thoughts, which is good. But and not to say that I do, but I watch too damn much 48 Hours, and I watch too much, you know, all of these shows that I'm like, these girls don't even know me. Like they don't even know if I'm some kind of crazy killer in the back here. Like, come to the backyard, open up the door, come in. Oh, just so
That's so funny.
And then they wake up in a tarp.
I'm telling you,
Oh my
right?
God, that's terrible. But it is probably what they think. I mean, they think worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're in the state
Well,
of
some
fear.
do and
they're
some
already-
don't.
That's one thing I've learned about, at least, you know, some of the women in my life. They always think worst case scenario. And
Well, and I think that's good. You know, being prepared, but some women don't. And that surprises me how many women don't.
Really?
They'll just show up and I'm like, girl, I could have been a mass murderer back here.
Yeah.
And you just walked into like my little trap.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like, you know, so some women actually I will say this, that some women, they'll bring their, you know, significant other, they wait outside, make sure that they're cool. They send a message like, no, everything's good.
Right.
I think I believe that I had a woman that comes strapped up and she let me know, like,
Yeah,
hey,
I
I
was
got a
gonna
strap
say,
just to let you know.
if you
And I'm
don't
like,
bring
no,
nobody,
I
at least
get
bring
it.
your
Like,
gun.
that's fine. You know, I get it. But anyhow, so
yeah. Take us back. Go ahead. Finish the story.
so going back to that, you know, even though I was upping the level of professionalism by building an additional space and by building something that wasn't inside of, you know, directly inside of my home, I then was like, okay, this is still kind of like, there's not a bathroom in the studio. I couldn't afford to do the bathroom at that time. It was an additional 5 G's or something like that. And I had a budget in mind. I'm very good with my budget, by the way. I'm very good with my finances. So I stick to the plan. And so there was no bathroom in there. They still had to come inside of my home to use the restroom. And
so there's still that mix of, you know, having to make sure everything's good and clean.
Yes.
And have that presentation in your personal.
Yes.
And then still
And I'm an artist. You know what that's like, Chris. I'm an artist. And so I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, you come into my house and my dog, it's not always clean and fancy. And there's the dogs are out. I have 4 dogs, by the way. I have 4 dogs. I have 3 kids, boys, all boys. So that in itself is very difficult because they're messy. They're messy kids. And so bringing people, yes, when they still have to come back into the house and then you're still showing them such a intimate part of your life, but if you don't have it all together, they see that.
Yeah.
And you know, my kitchen might be not clean. There might be dishes. That's just not professional.
Yeah.
You know, so I still knew that once we were there and it was serving its purpose, that there was something bigger that I wanted to do again.
Right.
And so I began to draw again.
And then keep going. So then is that when you draw this place?
Yeah. Yeah. I began
And how long ago was that? Give us perspective.
So 2017.
Wow. Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah, 2017 was kind of the idea, and that's kind of where it happened. I can actually remember that. So when you ask about specifics, I remember at my old home, you could see property in the back. There was private property that was in the back. And I remember the girl that was with me and the makeup artist that was with me. And I remember looking out the window, and we were talking about a wedding venue. We were talking about land. We were talking about, a bunch of things of that nature. And I said it would be so nice to own some land and just to have some space that you could kind of do whatever you want. And she then said, it was like, oh my gosh, that would be so amazing. You could do a wedding venue. You could have your studio, indoor, outdoor. And I don't know if that's the moment that did it, but I know that I spoke it.
Yeah.
And then there was that affirmation from them as well.
Yeah.
Encouragement in some form. And I went ahead and began to start drawing, and I drew a house. I was like, okay, gosh, it would be so nice. And I remember even being not little, I should say probably my young adult years, seeing people building homes and thinking at that point that was such a wonderful thing, but that was never for me. Like I was never going to have that.
Yeah.
And I look back at those words and how powerful they were then, but it took that shift to realize that no, I can have whatever I want.
Yeah.
I can have whatever I want.
Because I think it's extremely important to note that, and this might be just my opinion, but I think it's pretty much a fact that manifestation works both ways.
Yep.
And that's something we got to keep in mind.
Your thoughts do not discriminate.
Yeah,
it is, and that manifestation, those thoughts, they're going to work their way into your life, into reality,
one way or the other,
whether you acknowledge them being real or not.
That's right.
I mean, it's just going to happen. And the guy who always says he's sick, what happens? He's always sick.
Absolutely.
Wonder why?
Absolutely.
It is powerful. So I just wanted to notate that.
I know. I'm so glad you did, because
no, that's true.
In Boudoir, again, talking about what I do, we women are so very hard on ourselves. The things that we say to ourselves, the negative comments, the criticism. And I don't know how it is for men. I know some men will open up to me and say that they have, I know, and I'm basically speaking from my own husband, that, he opens up a platform for me to know how he's feeling, because women are different creatures. I just, we are very, very different than men, but I've also heard men come down on themselves. I've heard them say very negative things, and maybe, I don't know if you guys are as vocal about it or not. I don't know.
That's a good question, Chris. You could take it.
So, I mean, myself, I think it's probably a mix of not being vocal, and also just not thinking about that. Like, something about me is I've always kind of grown up. I mean, mom and dad still together, they're still married. So I came from a family life. I have 2 younger sisters, and that whole mix of things. I was the oldest, so I was always, the number one. I was the first grandchild ever. So I've always had this, you're the best, you're number one kind of complex about me. So that, I think, has kind of made me not be so hard on myself. That's just good. From being raised in that kind of light. But there's been times in my life where I have definitely been my own worst critic and have been way harder on myself than anybody I know ever would have been. And that's okay, that's acceptable, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's like I have a roommate who talks all this bad shit all the time, and I'm just like, hey, would you talk to me like that? Would you ever talk to me like that, or your best friend there, or your relative or whatever? And she's like, no, definitely, heck no, I wouldn't do that. It's like, then why the hell you talk about yourself like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it just ties again. That's manifesting thought, and that's manifesting the way you perceive yourself.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many different levels in how it can be a huge piece of everything, but at the same time, just a small little section. I mean,
this piece
it's embedded
is important.
in everything.
It's so important. I'm so glad you brought it up. It's so important, because people, again, they don't even realize that they're manifesting things when they're speaking things. They don't realize it, and they're speaking negative things.
They're speaking it into their life without even knowing.
I say that all the time, that your thoughts don't discriminate. What you speak out is what you're going to receive in one form, fashion, or another.
Whether you speak it, even if you think it, you have that internal dialogue with yourself. I mean, that's powerful enough for manifestation to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And then just to kind of touch on the question, because I think that, for me, obviously reflecting as a man, I do have my own insecurities and things like that. And men just don't talk about it as much. I think that's something like if I go hang out with Chris, I'm not going to talk to him about, oh, you think I look bad in this? Like, we don't think like that. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's the conversations.
I think we more just kind of give each other shit and, kind of give each other a hard time about that kind of stuff. Jokingly serious, but, kind of just make it more fun. I know I use laughter a lot for a lot of different things, and probably something like that.
But there is something there in regards to like the vulnerability that women have and how they speak about it. Sure. But then I think that it might work reverse in the sense because they do talk about their negative versus their positives more often.
So I guess here would be a question for you. So that you say that you don't speak those things out when you guys are around. Are you saying you shoot the shit together or, maybe joke about it?
Yeah.
What do you tell yourself in the privacy of your home?
Well, in my mirror, like for example, I have 8 messages to myself. Mm-hmm. And these messages are, I am powerful.
Yes.
I am better than who I was. I am great.
How did you learn that though? When at that point did you know that this was powerful to do? Because there was a point probably in your life that you didn't know to speak those things, or you realized that what you were speaking wasn't working.
Yeah. And I think it's a great question because, in terms of when did I know? I think my whole life changed right around when I started doing music videos. I had a very spiritual, probably like way too long form for this, but I had a time where like I felt my energy touch the sun. And I think that's when I realized that I was powerful, that I am a part of the full universe, that I am capable, I am love and I am evil. Because I think that's kind of what I've been exploring like in the last year is psychologically, like we are capable of evil. Within ourselves. And so kind of bringing it back to like how men, interact, like we're not gonna talk about these vulnerabilities to each other as a typical conversation.
Right.
Like I think those are the more between the sheets moments, like in regards to like, like I am not gonna lie. Like there's a few times like I've cried to Chris, like, yo, I'm going through this. Like I'm just spewing out my emotions. But I don't think that it's like I'm spewing out the negative insecurities about myself. I don't think that at that time that we're doing that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't thinking on that. I don't really think you've mentioned much of anything like that to me, or vice versa. It just doesn't come up. I mean, it's for me, it's not something that's on my mind enough to bring up to talk to somebody about. Like, it's not a running theme in my thoughts of, oh my God, I look this way, I look that way. Like when I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I'm
okay,
like,
so
I'm
let's
like,
not.
damn, you look good.
So then let's
like,
bring it back to this because I'm just curious
it.
because I mean you guys are bringing up a lot of good things for me to understand, even just men in a different perspective. So women come from an area of, ew, I don't like this about me. Ew, this is yucky. Ew, I need to lose weight.
Yes.
Let's talk about real life stuff then. What do you guys tell yourself about success? What do you tell yourself about where you're at specific in your life? Because if it doesn't have to do with body image, and that's the thing.
Maybe it's a career thing.
Yes.
Like, because this is good. That's a very good point because we do talk about in a sense of like successful within our business or career.
Yeah.
Like I'm not this or I'm not there yet. Like, for example, I'll give you a good example with the cameras. Like, I always think, like, I'm not to that next level of film and videography because I don't have
so that's that inner dialogue.
Yes.
That's that inner dialogue. Yes. That's what I guess I'm trying to get at too.
So but it's not a feel.
Yeah, it's not a body image thing. So, so we taking it back. What we hear women talk about the most is how they look, what they don't like, about their body and things like that, where men might come from an area of success and where am I at in my life? I'm supposed to be at a specific point.
Like, I should be here, but I've done so many this and that,
success.
and I've fucked off my 20s, so now here I am.
That equally like that. Being as important, the inner dialogue.
Yes. It's the same.
Yes.
No matter if the subject is different.
Yes.
The what am I trying to say?
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same thing. That's that.
The context may be different, but the general theme of what we do is similar.
You're speaking it, thinking it. Your thoughts don't discriminate. You're just taking it back to good or bad. And so if your inner dialogue is saying, "Oh, I'm not here yet," or "Oh, I don't have this," well, then you don't.
Right.
You know.
Right.
As opposed to speaking, "Here we go.
So
this is
good.
Manifestation
podcast.
You know what's funny about this whole thing? Again, just taking this back was Chris is, he's the creative of what we're doing right now, kind of behind the scene things. And I kept asking him, well, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? And just this morning he says, I think we're going to talk about manifestation. Yeah. And I was reading the book, Wayne Dyer, and the specific chapter was on manifestation. But even more so, I know that everybody that is in my life right now is manifested some way, somehow, and vice versa. There was something that each one of us needed.
This is crazy.
That we're here in this very room because of it. I don't question that a whole lot anymore. And I know that it's above and beyond business for the most part, that if I've come into contact with it. The guy that built the house, Brian, oh my gosh, like he's a hard ass. He's such like a pain in my ass sometimes. But when I wanted to build this house, I didn't know how. I didn't know, how that was all going to happen. And it just happened. And he was the right man for the job. He made all of what I wanted come about. Yeah. And it happened. So bringing it back one more time, bringing it back to drawing this area out, drawing the house out, and knowing that the studio was the most important. I guess saying that just made it real right now, but
it's a very important variable within.
It's such a a huge variable in what I do,
which came out amazing, I have to say.
Yeah, and just because I didn't think about this prior till today, which is, I know we had spoke briefly about like your office. Yeah. But the office is a different experience because they don't have to walk through your home.
Correct.
Yep. And then even I think what I connected today is they don't have to walk through your backyard.
Yes.
Like it's right here. It's just upstairs and this is it.
Upfront
right
parking.
Right up the long dirt road, come into the studio straight in. There's a bathroom here that they can use now.
Even got signs, studio, office.
Yeah. I mean, right off of a main street, which is nice. And so even though it's not a commercial property, it's easy and it's still my home. It really is still my home.
100%.
I think I've stayed true to that aspect of it. And I never had a desire to go out and do something commercial or get a commercial space because there was so much more intimacy in bringing them into my special space, which is my home. Right. So that aspect of me, there was never like, I realized that there was not a need for a commercial space, that there was not a need for that being that really, really like, this is going to be even more professional if you're coming and driving up 26th Street or 27th Street up in Manitou to have this. No, it wasn't important. Right. They'll come to you. If you're providing a service that they want, they're going to come to you no matter where you're at, for sure. Yep. So I love all of it. I now know, and I realize now how all of this. So learning, growing, reading books, being built up by others, manifesting certain people into my life that were going to help me along this journey. I have come to a spot to know that I have to be very careful with anything that I say. Mm-hmm. I have to be very careful with the thoughts that I think and how long I dwell on those thoughts. Yeah. Because somebody said when you worry, it's just like prayers, except for you're asking for things you don't want.
Yeah, that's strong. That's powerful.
And I was like, wow, that clicked with me, because why does the word say don't worry? Because it's not good for you. Why does it say think about everything pure, lovey, beautiful? That's what it says. It says think about these things. Right. It gives you direction.
Literally.
Yes, gives you direction. Here's the things that you should think about. Right. And so I still do it. I still get an ego. We talk about ego. I still get into my ego. I still get my feelings hurt about things and whatnot. Yeah. And I have to remind myself. But I believe that when you grow and you learn these things, that you have a bigger tool chest, per se, to pull from.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Totally.
What you got, Chris?
Just soaking it up at the moment, man.
No, I think that is powerful, especially the point of manifestation. in your true life.
Yes.
Being able to reflect on it, like, it's not hypothetical.
No, if somebody told me that manifestation wasn't real, then they just have never like understood that they're actually manifesting those things. So even saying that manifestation is not real, then you stop the power from working.
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's that in itself. Wow.
That's crazy, right? That you're like, oh, and I've heard people all the time. I'll just say that there was a conversation that I had with a gal who I know is very, very against about the words that we speak. And it comes from a very Christian based, learned environment. Great. And I sat with her, and she told me about how she goes into a restaurant and how they always get her order wrong. They always mess it up. And I'm looking at her like, oh, okay. So then the waiter comes out and something happens, and I'm like, okay, well, do you not see that at work?
Yeah.
But they don't get it. They don't. It doesn't make sense, and they don't get it. So, but they're doing it in reverse. Which is exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, that's the people that say I always have bad luck.
Yes.
Or it's just not working out, and what they're saying is coming true. And I think that's a valuable point, is that what you're saying is manifesting into your life, positive or negative.
Yeah.
So like, you have to be very cautious. So I have a question. Tell me what helps you. Obviously, we do stray into like the negative or the ego. And I think, God tells us to focus on a positive, but it's very easy to look to the negative.
Yeah.
So what helps you on your own journey?
I have a go-to person, first and foremost. I think, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationship, whether it's in friendship, that you have somebody that you trust and know will give you some type of encouragement, or they're going to build you up. And I'm not just talking about a feel-good message. I don't need somebody just to tell me. I'm way far past that. I don't need somebody just to tell me, oh, girl, you got this, or you know what I mean? That's just kind of like, I need the umph of, let's find out why you're still feeling like this. Let's bring it back. And I love reflecting. That's just something that I think that I'm gifted at, as far as taking it back to the little girl in me, because I believe that so much of those things that happen are the little girl in me.
From our kids.
Yes. So something happened, and I love to pull from that, because that's where it all stems from, is that person that learned something at some point in their life and took it. And then I had a girlfriend of mine say that I was like she says, I can see you like a little girl that when you get upset, you take your ball back and you don't want to play anymore. But it was so true. When people pissed me off in my life, I was like, done.
Yeah.
Cut off. You're out. Like, it was just so easy for me to cut people off. And she said, that's that little girl in you, for whoever that is. And you need to figure that out, that she's like, nope, done. I don't, I'm taking my ball back. I don't want to play.
Yeah.
And I had to figure that
That's
out.
Interesting.
So figuring out, having somebody to help you figure that out, having something that you can go to, whether it's reading, everybody has different forms of encouragement. Mine happen to be people, things that I read, things that I hear. You take it back to what the word says. It says that faith comes by hearing. Mm-hmm. So I believe that hearing things is very important. And also, in the same aspect, talking about those things too, working in reverse. If you're around a negative Nancy all the time, if you're around negative people, and they're saying that, you're soaking all that stuff in too. Right. That's feeding you. And that can be detrimental to your business, your walk, your relationships, and whatnot. I did an exercise with a couple of girls one time. You may have heard about this, because
Got you.
Yeah. And so what the exercise was I told them, I want you to begin to picture who you want to be in your life. Like, I really want you to first think about it. And I said, not just that. Now I want you to go out, and for the next week, I want you to live it. I want you to pretend. I want you to play pretend. I want you to imagine. I said, so I want to hear about your day. I want you to text me and tell me what state you're in, what you're doing in that state. I want you to tell me if you bought a car. I want you to tell me if you're on vacation. And I literally had them do this exercise with me. So I'm getting text messages from these girls like, hey girl.
Funny text messages.
I'm speaking at an event in Florida, just wish me luck. There's about, 3,000 people right now. And I'm like, dope. Like, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to watch it. And then somebody else sent me a message, girl, I just bought me like the newest like Range Rover right now. And I'm about to go put gas. And it helped them to begin to visualize.
To even see themselves.
Yes.
God. Yeah, that's powerful. Because when you're telling me that, and she's like saying that I'm about to go speak, like I'm sitting here laughing like, what? They feel like they're about to go speak, even though it's pretend.
Yeah. Yes.
Like there's value in that.
It's beyond valuable. If you begin to start walking and talking in the part that you want to be, you'll become it.
Yeah.
You'll become it.
That is powerful. That's a great tip.
Yes. I just think if I look at my life now, if I sit back, first and foremost, I feel so abundantly blessed. But I also look around and at things. I think for the longest time when this house was being built, I came here and I felt this sense of just wanting to be here so bad. And it was piece by piece, this went up. It was the foundation, then it was the wood, and then it was the roof, and then it was the everything. And I just wanted to be here every single time to see it, because I knew that those were my thoughts in action.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That's a powerful message. And I think that literally was manifestation plus the background of how you started. Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to talk a little bit more about your business. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think you had mentioned like the intimacy is what you like.
Yes.
But what is it about the boudoir or I don't know.
Boudoir.
Boudoir. I'm going to say boudoir.
Boudoir. It's a French word. It means bedroom.
Okay. So the boudoir. Tell me what attracts you to boudoir? So and why? Like
when I was starting in photography, I shot everything. I shot babies, I shot families, I shot weddings, I shot anything I could get my camera on. I photographed it because I wanted as much experience as possible. And I think I had told you the story at one point. I even to the point where I was charging. I didn't know what to charge. Nobody does, right? When they start business, is what do I charge? And so we go and look at what somebody else is charging and just try to throw a number out there.
Right.
And I was charging. Yeah. And no, that was really $75. So it was a maternity session, I remember. And I asked the guy, he says, yeah, my wife is pregnant and you should take her pictures. Oh my God, yeah, I would love to. And well, how much are you going to charge? Well, I'll give you all of your images on a disc and I'll go to you and I'll do the session and I'll spend 3 hours there for $75. And he said, yes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm making money.
I have arrived.
Like, yeah, I have arrived. Like I am making so much. And I was so happy about it. And
funny?
I thought I was making money. Right. I was like, dang, like that's so good. I was just ecstatic about it. But
I'm now a professional.
Yes, yeah. And
you remember the $100 videos?
Yep.
Bro, I remember getting paid $200 and feel like I was the boss.
Yes, like I just did that, and then you're not thinking about the gas that it took. You're not taking the time,
20 hours,
the time away from your family. You know what I mean?
Editing, the everything.
You don't think about those things. So, bring me
that's
back.
All work.
Where were we at? Where were we going with that? With the business aspect.
So you're shooting everything. You got the job.
Yes, and I did a boudoir for one of my girlfriends at the time, and I just said, hey, I want to try this out. Will you do this? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And this girl, to me, in my eyes, she was beautiful. She had 3 kids. And so, of course, she has a mom body. And it's okay to say that. Like, I think that we say that in such a negative fashion. It's like, we get stretch marks and the only people that are looking at it are us.
The women, because the men
I
want that mom body.
Damn. And let's talk about that on another podcast, please, because I need perspective. As well, I don't actually really need perspective anymore. Like, I get it. I get it from doing it, but the women need perspective. They need that perspective.
I showed a picture to my little brother. He's 19.
Yeah.
I was like, look at her. He was like, she's not my type. I was like, what you mean, bro? He was like, no, she's not my type. I said, bro, she looking like a steak.
So it's so interesting to hear that. And it's so true, because we women will look at, and we will literally
like a steak today.
Salivating.
We will look at one part of our body and we'll just stay stuck on it. Right. And the very first
we don't even see it.
The very first time I heard a man, he was older than me. He was about 15, 20 years older than me. I worked at AT&T at the time, selling cell phones. And he was an older gentleman. And he said, he was talking about women in general, just like, and he said, man, I don't know what's wrong with these youngsters, whatever. He said, I like me a little bit of stretch marks. Like, I like me a little bit. He goes, that tells me that you're a woman. And I was like, okay, boy, like, damn, okay. It just gave me a different perspective of what you guys see as opposed to what we see. Yeah. And so I looked at her. I'm thinking that she's beautiful. I really believe that she was beautiful, even with she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And her shoulders were up, they were high, and she was like, okay, well, what are we doing? She was nervous, and I just said, here, do this, try this. Let's kind of get into this. And
is this your first at the time? This is your first boudoir shoot?
First ever. Yes, first ever.
In your bedroom?
It wasn't even my bedroom. It was a friend's bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah, she had a white bedroom with big windows, and I said, let's do that there. Let's just try it there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I still have one of the pictures from that particular shoot that I look back and it's still a badass shot. Like I'm still so proud of that shot.
Yeah.
But as we started to shoot, she talked to me and she grabbed her stomach and she was just like, oh, please make sure that you cover this, you know. She grabbed her breasts even. She was like, oh, they're so saggy. They're, you know, they're this, they're that. And I'm just like, this girl is crazy. She's so pretty and she doesn't see it. So I just kept coaching her. I kept talking to her and I kept reminding her and speaking affirmations of love. I mean, honestly, like what, you know, just positive things to her. And it was genuine. It wasn't, I was literally telling her what I saw.
Right.
And as the shoot progressed, I saw her shoulders go down and I saw her just kind of like
start to relax.
Just relax. And she started to smile and she started to move her
all
body.
Into it, huh?
Her body language changed. The way she touched her hair changed. The way she touched her body changed. And she was then like walking around almost nude, like, what's next? Like, what do we do next? And I loved that. I loved what she received. I love what she received from it. I loved it. I loved watching it.
Being that vehicle from point A to point B.
Yes.
A total transformation within an hour, let's say.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yes.
I think that is something that I love about, and actually, like, if you don't mind me saying, like, that's probably like my favorite thing is the story behind the shoot that I'm intrigued about.
Yeah.
Is because the first time that I was ever a part of one, like, she had like this traumatic story, and like this was the reason why she was doing it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she was trying to, if I'm not mistaken, there's something about her husband or ex-husband at the time, whatever. And like this was a statement for her. And like for me, like when I first, like, you know, the idea of boudoir shoots, like, you know, it's just sexy lingerie. Yes. I never expected to walk out of that shoot or that you know, time frame thinking about the impact of what this meant to her. Mm-hmm. And I think that is,
I think that gets overlooked a lot.
I believe 100% it does, because I think that, you know, I've been torn up as a, you know, just I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and I've had my own people beat me up because of what I do. You know, that I'm a stumbling block to men, and that, you know, and they have no idea the intention of what I do,
and
the intent
impact
of my art, the impact that it has, the stories that get told here, are amazing.
They are. I've been around long enough to hear some of those. And
just Juanita's story, the one we just did. That's
powerful.
Person.
I mean, they all in one way or another, in varying degree, they all have their own, like, you know, heart in it.
Individual stories. I mean, and that I love. So just kind of bring that up, just backstory I want to kind of do really quick, just be on the lookout for, if it might even drop before this podcast drops. But okay, for instance, let's talk really quick. I'm going to bring back 3 different things right here. Manifestation. I bought a mic, this cheap mic. Okay, it's cheap. I bought this mic before I knew either one of you guys. I bought it and I just knew somehow, some way, that something like this was going to happen eventually, and it's happening right now. Wow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So going back to that, you guys being here, some type of form of manifestation. So the story of how I met Dana, the story of how I met Chris, Chris is working with me right now. Dana is, we're building something right now. We're thinking of ideas. And one of the ideas is just that the videos behind the scenes, if women will allow that vulnerability to also be open to having somebody who really wants to
capture their story,
showcase that part of everything that you go through. We're going to be able to do that now, and I love that. So video is powerful. Video is powerful.
So powerful.
Yes.
Because I like it because even like as I was walking up here, you guys know I said it. I showed Juanita the 1-minute video that has no audio, just the film. And she said that to be able to watch her experience like that, she loved it. She loved it. Mm-hmm. I think personally, she liked the shorter video better than the longer video. Yeah. And it just captures a moment in time.
Yes.
It really does.
How you felt, what you were going through. And so many times
she can remember that exact moment of when she was in that position of what she's saying.
Because we talked about that a little bit when you asked her, you know, what the importance was for the video. And I know she was really trying to convey what that meant to her, but a picture is, you know, don't get me wrong, I'll get on my soapbox about a picture all day because we're losing our history through take pictures, delete. Yeah. Like, so the power of a print is something powerful.
Yes.
Totally.
But then if you have a print and then a video to actually go to and say, this was that time, this was that moment, and be able to play that back. Because I can show you so many different pictures. I can't necessarily tell you what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I was.
Take a picture of her, a girl hyperventilating, shaking. I mean,
I can't. So they get to see the good that came out of it. They get to see the, oh wow, like that's what that conveyed to. But I don't get to showcase all of the anxiety,
the triumph over all of their emotions,
what it took just to even walk through those doors.
Right.
I don't get to showcase
and
that.
Video though, man. Video does.
Yes. So I'm excited. I'm excited about what we're going to roll out. I'm excited about what may be to come. And don't get me wrong. There's women, I told you this too, Dana, that there's women that will come in here. They're just celebrating. They look good. They're confident. Their body is tip top. They work out 10 days a week. They're like, yes. And they just want to take pictures and celebrate who they are right now and what, maybe a special occasion, what they're doing.
Even then, to capture that celebration.
Yes. But it's always a celebration. That's right. It's always a celebration in some form or another. And the other one, so the other stories, but I mean, I've heard, you have to understand that I've heard stories of sexual abuse. I've heard stories of shame, guilt, growing up religion based, where you're told you can't look sexy, you can't wear that, you can't be that, you you shouldn't do that.
You definitely can't take a photo in it.
And then you better not show anybody if you do, to divorce, to weight loss. There's just so many different reasons.
It's crazy. It's crazy just thinking about all that, and it's just nuts.
Yeah.
But we manifested it because, just to be honest, you are on my wall, Leah.
I love it. I want to see a picture now.
Yeah, your name is on my wall. It's not a picture. It's just your name.
I've seen it.
And
I'll attest to it.
I've had you in my mind for a long time. I've never forgotten about you. I knew I had to get through some things.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that Chris called me on a random ass day.
Yeah, you see?
And brought me here. And then from that, it kind of grew into coming back the next day, the next week, the following week. And
to right here.
And here we are.
To be on the podcast, because honestly, I didn't want to be on your podcast.
You didn't want to be on the podcast.
The only reason was because I didn't want to try to make it mine. I didn't want to step on nobody's toes.
I get it. I get it. I think
I'm too quick to take over.
But that's a gift. That's a gift. That's a gift that you have. And I get it. I get it, because there's times where even I have to, I think, shy away from certain things. When Juanita was standing here and she was talking about, and this is a little reflection for me, and not in a negative way, but when she was talking about how, yes, my presence made her comfortable and things, but then she said that she felt like she had this standard of who she,
I remember that.
That like really kind of, I was like, damn,
she was just like, Leah's like perfect in all these ways. And just amazing. Man. And I have her on a pedestal almost.
Yeah. And that for me was like, wait a minute, like that's definitely not what I'm trying to convey. And yet that's what, and it could be in our own insecurities.
But that's where women.
Yes.
All right.
But I have to
You don't think about that because it's just who you are.
But I want to be conscious of it, like so just like you were conscious of, like, hey, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but it's something that you just do naturally, it's just something. And so I love that. Where I think I was, I love the idea of the podcast, and when Chris brought it up, I think it was definitely it's one of those moments that is like, okay, no, I knew that I wanted to do this, and now it's kind of like he's pushing the button on it.
Maybe we'll do it like next year. I'm like, no, we need it now.
Yes, but no, I love that
I'm glad we're doing it.
Yes, and I'm glad that you're here and that you're being a part of it and that you decided to say yes.
Yeah, thanks, Dee. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man.
He
Thank
said,
you
no,
for
I ain't
being
gonna be on it. No,
I did.
He said, I'll stand behind the scenes. I'll just watch.
I'll watch and judge.
I was like, yeah, you're gonna make me nervous. He's like a podcast king. I watched your podcast, so shout out to Dana Keith Films and his YouTube channel. Like
hashtag No Luck's Given podcast.
Yes, that whole, I loved it. It was on business, and I really received a lot from it. I'll just be honest with you. That was my first podcast I ever listened to.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
What an honor.
Yeah. That was my first podcast I ever, and I've had girlfriends that say, oh, I listen to podcasts all the time. And I do, and I listen to YouTube stuff, like, the videos that play, but I've never listened to like a live podcast ever.
Right.
So I received a lot out of it. I thought it was really, really dope. And I loved the way that you kind of.
And here you are now doing your own.
Now you're on a podcast the next day.
The next day. That's right.
Manifesting.
The very next day. That's manifestation.
100%. 100%.
Man, I'm honored to be on the podcast. What you guys got? You guys got anything? We're hitting right about the hour mark.
Yeah, I think, just in summing this up,
introduction to the studio, like that type of a thing.
All of this stuff is coming up. I think that's all things that we're trying to get an agenda down of what it is that we want to speak about. And we definitely, when we say between the sheets, I want to keep it authentic. I want to keep it real. I want to keep it. I want you guys to know that you talked about the grit, the dirt, the blah,
just that
because
real, that raw.
What you see, what somebody might see in you may not be what you're feeling. You may not be those, they don't know the steps that it took you to get there. I think Michelangelo said it at one point where he said, if people understood the work that it took to create what I've created, they wouldn't think it was so great.
Right.
That's crazy, the behind the scenes stuff. And then what Brother Luck said on your podcast yesterday, or you guys' podcast, was, oh my God, that was mind blowing for me when he said that basically entrepreneurship is the greatest
freedom.
He said it is the most stressful freedom.
Yes.
He said entrepreneurship is the most stressful freedom that you can have. And I was like, it's so right. Like that people don't understand the grind. They do not understand.
You can go do this. Yeah. But your business is suffering.
Yeah. Well, and just not even when you decide, when you make a decision to do it, you really need to make a decision to do it, because I loved that you guys talked about sacrifice, the time away from your family, the hours spent. That was so important to me. I think it's so important for somebody like Juanita and anybody that's just coming up in their business game to understand, like, this is going to happen. And it was one thing that I made very clear to her. This is going to happen. Yeah. You are going to lose time with your child. You are going to lose time with your daughter. You are going to spend hours not getting paid.
Yeah.
What's the other quote? That you will work more for yourself than you ever have for anybody else in your life. Right. More hours. You'll work more hours for yourself than you ever did for anybody else in your life.
100%.
It's true.
Yeah.
100%. So those types of topics, and even deeper.
That conversation, my bad, Chris.
No, I was going to say also, for everybody listening, if there's anything that, sticks out at you guys, please go to the page on Facebook.
Give us suggestions.
And,
Facebook, YouTube, I don't, however it's going to drop. I don't take care of all that technical stuff. So
well, you'll have options to get a hold of us on social media. Reach out to us on social and tell us what you're thinking and what you want to hear.
And tell us what you thought about this one. This was our first one.
Totally. First podcast. No, but I think that last night, for me, it reassured me that I'm going in the right direction. Yeah. Because when they're talking about these things and I'm going through them, and I have been going through them, and it's literally what's on my plate.
Yes.
It's like, oh shit, okay, now I know I'm at the right table. You
yes.
know what I'm saying?
Yes. Right. So it's those humps and bumps. It's that roller coaster. And what happens, I believe, is that most of the time people are going up, and they're on this excitement, and then they hit this bump, and then many people will just go flat. That's it. They're done.
They're scared. They're that fear.
It's the fear. We will talk a lot about fear-based stuff, because that is a killer. Fear is a killer. Yeah. And exactly that, hearing somebody else's behind-the-scenes story of keep going. You got to keep going, because these things. So when you talked about, hey, well, I was going through this, it's those things you can allow to either make you or break you. It's true. It may sound cheesy as hell, but it's true. Right. It's going to make you at some point if you allow it to, or it's going to break you if you allow it to.
Right.
Yep.
So
manifesting 100%. That you will literally manifest it one way or the other.
Yep. Henry Ford said it, right? That whether you think you're right or you're wrong, you're correct.
You're most likely right.
Whether you think you can or you can't,
you're right.
You're right. That's what it is. And it's 100%. Don't discriminate.
I always think about that.
Yeah.
A lot. Mm-hmm. Look, guys, I don't know how you guys want to close this podcast, but I think that's pretty much a good wrap, man.
Yeah. I think first podcast,
it felt good to me.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you. Great conversation, Leah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dana.
Special guest, Dana Keith.
Hold it down.
We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Powerful first episode about manifestation.
More to come.
I'm impressed.
More to come.
We'll have a really cool jingle soon too.
Oh, here go Leah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And we're out.